going out for a ride on the ADVGN 2019 Suzuki GN125. It's currently got a 150cc cylinder on it, hot cams, stage 1 cam from a LT 230 or 250 quad, 18-inch rear wheel from a GT 200, the old Suzuki. A few other little bits and pieces for touring around on. I made some racks up to take some bicycle style panniers. Swapped out the battery for a lithium battery, saves quite a lot of weight. A few little electrical bits up the front for charging. Little guards and things on the lights. It makes a nice little tourer. Go on the back roads and go camping with. Plenty of roadworks around here at the moment. Just about every road I go down's got one in it. Try and take the long way home, and it's another roadwork there as well, so not much fun. Not great conditions for breaking in a piston, rings and a cam. I've got a few kilometres on it now. There's just a little country road up behind where I live. It's a nice little ride, especially on a small bike. Don't need to go much faster than 80. Have fun on it. Be roadworks here, but no one fixing these potholes, that's for sure. hopefully that's the last of that. Always get nervous sitting with an air-cooled engine idling away at a light. The GN goes pretty well as a little touring bike. I mean, just as a 125, you can sort of just stretch it to you know, 95, 100 kilometers an hour. That's about its limit, but it'll cruise nicely at 80. Goes considerably better with a 150 kit. With a passenger, you can do as on a 125, you can still sort of get to that speed. But if there's any hills, it doesn't have the oomph to carry that speed up it. With a 150, it has that little bit extra torque and gets up the hills nicer. You don't have to slow down as much. With this new camshaft, it's quite good. But I've had this fully loaded, you know, 2 panniers, a tank bag, me and my wife, and it'll still go 100 on the motorway. You don't want to sit on that all day, but it'll get you from here to there. I've taken it on multi-day trips, and so the ride to and from where you're going is usually the worst part. It's you know, always the slowest thing on the road until you get onto the, you know, the slower back roads and gravel roads, and it's still usually the slowest, but everyone else is going slower as well, so that's alright. Most of its power above 7,000 RPM, not like the bigger, you know, even the bigger GN125 or the DR200. No, they're making most of their power so around 5,000. This one's peak horsepower 9,000 RPM. So don't be too afraid of giving it a little bit of shit to make it go. This one's got a electronic tack on it at the moment because the new cam doesn't have the drive worm gear on it for the mechanical tack, so it's not quite set up right at this point. I've got to get a decent rev counter on there and adjust it to match. I tried it with one of those conductive rev/hour meters and it was not very good. It's about the same accuracy as this, but sort of all over the place when you're holding an RPM. So don't worry about how high it's going, it's a bit lower than that. The deer there's some alpacas up the road a little bit. I think I need to adjust my gear shifter, I keep missing it. I had it off, I split the cases, or split the side, took the sides of the cases off, hoping to be able to fit a kickstart to the GN motor, but unfortunately it hasn't got the bosses machined out. I'd hoped they'd just use the same as the GN125, and then I could have a kickstart and a electric start, but apparently they don't bother. Nicely now. Generally the 0 to 80 is pretty good, but then it's at 80 to 100 where it really slogs out. As a 125 it takes about 30 seconds, about 20 seconds of that is going from 80 to 100. Up there is the wideband. It's checking out what jets work best. Generally it's been just the stock jetting has been fine for the 150 kit. It even runs a little bit rich, so you can, I've currently got it on the leanest notch, and then I've got a washer that takes it out to half the notch. And then the main jet is a 115, I believe, which is the stock jetting that we get here, and it's perfectly fine at wide open throttle, even with the bigger cylinder and the cam. I know this is a little bit lean, just cruising along at maybe a quarter throttle, that being, you know, about 14, which is not too bad. It's a little bit lean for an air-cooled motor, I feel, but I wouldn't worry too much about it running rich there. So I might either might need to put in a slightly bigger idle jet and see how that goes. At idle's perfect, but just to give it a bit of richness coming off of idle. But then of course the next thing I'm going to do with this is get rid of the stock exhaust. It's the header is actually 2 layers, and the inside layer is quite narrow. So there's a few big rivets. Ah, damn! A few big rivets right at where the head is, so it's quite restrictive. So I'll go for a DR200 header, and then try and figure out where to put a muffler, because I don't want to move my racks around. I want to pump them out too far, too wide, and I want to keep my pillion footrests. So I think it's going to need a little custom job or something on there. We just passed a quarry, so you get all these quarry trucks. Generally, once they get some speed up, they don't slow down for anyone. I saw one on its side the other day. It came around the corner and lost his balance. I think he would have been having a bad day. You know, just cruising along on the GN is what the GN does best. Probably the best thing you can do for a GN before you worry about getting any power or anything out of it. It's changing the tyres. That front stock tyre is just absolute garbage. I've got a Heidenau Scout, or I think it's a K60 on the front, just a 1990, and it's remarkably improved. You know, especially when there's little bits of gravel and shit on the road. Don't have to worry about it scrubbing out, but mainly you notice in the wet with that stock tyre, I just kept missing my turn off, so I put the brakes on and go sailing past it with a decent tyre. You know, it's probably dropped 20 metres off its stopping distance in the wet, just going in from 50 even. It's outrageous, you know, it doesn't stop that fast. It's about a half, or take it down to 1/3 is pretty good. And then I swapped to the 18-inch on the back, because you don't get any decent tyres in 16-inch. And then it's that much lighter. You know, it's like an M-key alloy rim, which is lighter than the current GN rim. And then the tyre is that much lighter than that wider cruiser style tyre. So it revs up a bit quicker with the less unsprung weight, and you can get something that's got some actual grip on it. I noticed my last sort of gravel rides, the tyre only had, I don't know, 6,000 kilometres on it, but it was just sliding out around the corners, which if the rear's sliding out, it's not too bad, it's fun, but not when you're trying to get somewhere. So I went on a little gravel ride at the start of this year with this new tyre. It seemed to handle a lot better around the corners, it'd power out of them at least. The rear one's just a Shinko Golden Boys, another 18 90 tyre. Still seems to handle pretty well. It doesn't, if anything, it's sped up how fast it will turn into a corner. I like the wider stock tyre, sort of, you know, handles like a boat. Got roughly the same diameter on it, maybe a little bit extra, so you get another maybe 5k top speed out of it. See idle there, 11, kind of rich. But it's just that standard jet and it's almost wound all the way in. But you can just get a bag of assorted jets off AliExpress or something, and they go in these I think there's a BS26 or something carb, which is not a very popular carb for getting parts for. But the jets are just, you know, standard sort of common Mikuni carb jets. I know a lot of the guys with DR125s change the carb out. I don't know what carb they have standard, but you could put a slide carb on probably, or go a little bit bigger. I don't think you'd get any extra power really going bigger on a stock engine, because they seem to run rich right the way through anyway. At least here they do. I don't know what they have car jet wise in other countries. They need to be detuned or whatever. There's no emissions or anything on this engine, but it has got the bosses for that exhaust EGR thing. We don't have to worry about that. Let's say the main restriction is the exhaust anyway. Like when I had the head off, I ended up porting and polishing it. It doesn't need much. I just polished the exhaust out, polished the combustion chamber, and then took the intake out to 80 grit and just knocked down that leading edge of the valve guide to smooth it out. The casting was pretty good actually. I don't know how much that raised by itself because I straight away put this new cam on, but they probably work well together. So that's riding the little GN. That's another little 30k ride I think. It's getting some heat cycles on it. Make sure it's all good for a big trip. Catch you guys later with do a walk around or something and show you what I've done to it so far.